quick around the circle. Out of the 400 years, or last 400 years, what amount of years has Ukraine been part of Russia?
All of it.
Most.
347.
Minus 2014 and now.
Yeah, exactly. 90%, 91% of the time in Russia's been in existence, that land has been occupied by Russia. Can you play that video quick? I put together a cool little map showing. So, see the little overlay of the Ukraine right there, the little Ukraine map thing?
Okay, let's get a pin.
That's where Ukraine is on the map. Now hit play. And this is Russia.
Yeah, I mean, in fairness, it's been occupied by countries other than Russia as well at different points in time.
Over the last 500
Russia's
years.
doing its thing. Russia's. Look at that.
Yeah.
Wow, Russia's no joke.
And then starting like in 1600, boom, Ukraine's part of
Who made this graph?
it. Somebody on YouTube made this map thing. I put the little Ukraine overlay on it on the side. So, longer than the United States has been in existence, Ukraine's been part of Russia. And then in 1991, when the Soviet Union collapses,
Flag keeps changing. Flag different. Here we come, baby.
yes,
Whoa!
Whoa!
Jeez.
Whoa!
This is what 100 years of war looks
Yeah,
like.
exactly.
yeah,
Dead people,
little,
dead people,
little
dead
chaos,
Dead people.
Little chaos. just a touch.
and boom, there you go. So they lost a ton of countries. So when this happens, when the Soviet Union collapses, right, it's a little bit of a state of chaos. There's no real leader in Russia, or what becomes Russia, and we take this poll over there. That's like NGO goes over there and says like, all right, guys, you want to be an independent country? And they're like, they say 90% of them say yes, but this kind of creates a situation where like even George W. Bush was saying like, don't do this. This is a death sentence. Like, careful of your like nationalist stuff because you're gonna end up getting invaded by Russia if you do this. So right off the jump, everybody's warning them not to do this, but they declare their independence. And
Ukraine does.
yeah.
What year was this?
1991.
Okay.
So they say 90% of them did this, but I mean, who's like it's an NGO saying that?
Yeah,
like,
of course.
like with an incentive to do that. So I'm thinking that, like, based off what I've been looking at, our government's just been fixated on getting Putin out of power since the early 2000s, because it's like the same coalition of people. It's Blinken, Jake Sullivan, like even Hillary Clinton had like a hard on for Putin for some reason. So
They all do.
I don't think Putin like ever really had a shot to just like coexist, like, because like right from the start of his presidency, they were doing coups in other governments, like all the former Soviet Union countries, like Belarus and everything, like Gaddafi. They overthrew Gaddafi. So like everything these people like Jake Sullivan has touched went to shit. Which they're brilliant if their intention was for it to go to shit, but if they're actually trying to conduct foreign policy, they're the stupidest people I've ever seen.
You know what? Talk about coups. The CIA was involved in the 2014 Maidan revolution that ousted
In 2004.
ousted the president. And I think it was Poroshenko who got in, the guy who
Yeah,
came
over-
before Zelensky.
Yeah.
Right.
They toppled the government and installed a new guy who was very pro-America, and that's when all the American corruption started in there, or at least the most recent batch of it. But like that map showed, there have been huge chunks of the population that not only are linked to Russia, are ethnically Russian, identify as Russian, speak the Russian language, all along eastern Ukraine, because that's where the Russian border was. And those people, for the better part of the last decade and a half, have been terrorized by the Azov Battalion. Remember
The Nazis.
that actual Nazi organization?
Real Nazis,
We
yeah.
sent grenade launchers to in the first couple of weeks of
Yeah,
the war.
weird.
But their whole purpose was to terrorize the non-Ukrainian identifying citizens of the country and keep them suppressed so that they couldn't actually show sympathy for Russia.
Our government's arrogant enough to think, though, that like democracy belongs everywhere in the world, but some places in the world are better off the authoritarian, because if you just pluck an authoritarian out of a lot of countries, it's going to turn into chaos.
Like what about Saddam Hussein? Right? Saddam Hussein ran that bitch, and guess what? I know a bunch of people, a lot of family members that are from there, and they were like, you know what? The moment they took out Saddam Hussein, everything went to crap, because he knew how to control everybody.
Same thing-
Shiite, Sunni, and then he was gone. ISIS is formed, and they did it on purpose.
And then not to say like what is it called? The benevolent dictator is a good thing, but like you look what happened to Libya after Gaddafi was
Exactly.
killed, and it's now
on
it's a
purpose.
hotbed for actual human slavery.
Remember when
And Iran,
Gaddafi,
too.
Yeah, Gaddafi had a plan to get off of the dollar. Like part of what he was doing in Libya.
Death wish.
Yeah, he had this
Yeah.
plan for North Africa and the rest of Africa as well to start creating its own currencies it was actually very similar to how BRICS is currently of, America has weaponized the dollar. We need to form our own stable currency and begin our own economic development. And then right after that, suddenly, no, he's a terrible dictator. We got to kill him. And now Libya is a tropical paradise where everyone can go vacation safely, right?
It is going, getting back to Ukraine and Zelensky, unless my understanding is wrong, and I don't think it is, he was elected on the campaign of negotiating a piece of the eastern region, which, had it been done, would have spared the rest of Ukraine, which doesn't necessarily identify as ethnic Russian,
Right.
the trauma, tragedy that they've gone through since this war started, which actually started in 2014. And then he got the tap on the shoulder from America, says, don't go negotiate anything. We're going to play hardball because we want to fight our proxy war to weaken the Russian industrial machine, economy, etc. And so that's it. Few 100,000 Ukrainians, few 100,000 Russians, and it all plays well into the NATO geopolitical agenda.
Right, and it's hilarious to me that's their philosophy, because that's like right out of the mind of Jake Sullivan, who thinks he's smart because he did good in school. But I mean, the notion of weakening Russia by doing a proxy war, like, I mean, every time a country has gone from not being in a war to being in a war, their military gets stronger. And like, what exactly is the off ramp? If you're like, what, you're just going to escalate a little bit, and, like, until what? Like, what's like?
Putin won't use nuclear bombs because he knows better.
Yeah.
As if once you get to that level, you're in all-out war in any event, and banking on the fact that he won't use it so they can keep crossing red line after red line after red line. It's almost like provocation.
He's
right,
and unlike the United States, where if you want to launch one nuclear weapon, the chain of command is so, and before it even gets to the president, and there's codes, and the missileers have to get, because they're consistently authenticating with the satellite. Because when I worked at a nuclear missile base, I worked at a MAF, missile alert facility. I was a flight security controller. I would let these two guys, the actual guys that would wear blue, the missileers that would launch the nukes, they would go down there, and the process they explained to me to launch a nuke, it's ridiculous. Like, it takes a while. It ain't happening like that. In Russia, it's just Putin.
Yeah.
He goes, oh, they're effing with me? Launch. That's it, Rob. That's the scary part.
Did you guys mention the Russian factor that talked about how, according to this person that worked inside of the nuclear facilities in Russia, that on the days leading up to the Ukraine invasion, Putin is ready to launch nukes day one.
Jeez.
So, that person spoke out and said, yeah, we were this close to nuclear war before. Now just imagine where we're at now with the escalation of using the long-range
intercontinental ballistic missiles.
Yep.
yeah.
You just gotta hope that Trump is talking to Putin and they're saying, let's let these idiots throw their last hissy fit
but then
before
if
they
he
leave
does that,
office.
people are like, he's a Russian asset. Look, he's compromised.
Yeah.
He loves Putin.
Hatch Act violations. I don't think
Yeah,
they're
well,
gonna try
listen,
it.
they can hatch my ass because the last thing you want is dude, if we get word that a nuclear missile went off, I'm telling you guys right now, I've said this before, it's over. Kiss your ass goodbye, because once somebody does it, then another person's going to do it, other people are going to panic, everybody's going to be like this.
But I gotta ask, and because this is where Brandon and I we were talking last night in our team group chat of like, I'm glad we're finally on this subject, because okay, let's say Putin launches a nuke at Kiev, wipes the city off the map. Why is that my problem? Look, I understand from the humanitarian point of I really hope nobody ever gets a nuke dropped on their city, because that's terrible. But Ukraine is not in NATO. We keep trying to add them to NATO. That's how this whole problem got started in the first place.
And Ukraine's just Ukraine because we call them Ukraine. Like,
Exactly.
Russia never agreed to that. Like, they just had an absence of a leader for a minute, and we just swooped in and said, like, oh, okay, you're an independent state now. So it's a totally illegitimate state.
If a member state of NATO gets nuked, it triggers our mutual defense thing where we all have to get involved in that. Ukraine's not a member state right now, so if it gets nuked, of course we'd retaliate. But why? Why is it our problem to retaliate over? It's a thing nobody has ever really been able to explain. But you see where Zelensky has been, going with the United States government so far. He's like, oh, we're not just holding out to take back the territory they took when they invaded in 2022. We're going to get Crimea. We're going to get all of our lost territory. No, you're not. That was never going to happen. But now it's like, oh, we're just going to hold out and we'll eventually beat Russia. Yeah, sure you will, buddy.
Yeah, no, you're not.
No, the obvious off-ramp is just to give them the Donbass and to roll back NATO a little bit. Like the part that they're already occupying it. Like there's no use for Ukraine occupying that, and like Ukraine.
create something of a demilitarized zone. It doesn't have to be Russia. It shouldn't be Ukraine, or it doesn't have to be Ukraine. And then an undertaking that Ukraine doesn't enter NATO. The bottom line is the agenda has been written on the wall for a long time. They want this war. They thought they were going to dilapidate the military capabilities of Russia. They thought they were going to break the ruble. And they've done nothing except actually just impose all of that misery on the Western societies.
And their industrial capacity's gotten faster and stronger, too. Like, they're cranking out artilleries much faster than they were before the war.
Yeah, and mind you, and Zelensky's got how much money have we laundered over there so far?
300 bill.
Almost $300 billion has gone there.
To prop up their government, to prop up their small businesses, and to launder the old weapons out of the stock so they can build new ones in America.
Oh, yeah.
It's good for everybody.
Oh, yeah, give them all that money.
Sarcasm.
Oh, you guys want to buy weapons and stuff like that? But buy them from us American companies.
$275 million under the Department of Defense. Billion.
Yeah.
You know,
Under the
sham
Ukraine
our money.
Security Initiative.
I remember when Trump was first talking about the border wall, that CNN's like, this bill would cost $5 billion
remember
to
that.
build the wall.
Yeah. Yeah.
And how far
oh
we've
my
come.
god, we could have built that damn thing how many times over right now, you freaking scumbag. So if you like this clip, click right here. And if you want to see more like it, click right here. Stay angry, Patriots.